यमुना तीरा वनचार्यं जायो राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जायो राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे राम राम हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन भगवान की, श्री श्री गौर निताय की, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवता सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपः कुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. This morning we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4th, entitled The Creation of Fourth Order, Chapter 20, entitled Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena, text 38, and this is the last verse of this chapter. Adrishtaya Namaskritya Nripa Sandarshitatmane Avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau adrishtaya namaskritya nrupa sandarshitatmane avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau adrishtaya namaskritya nrupasandarshitatmane avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau adrishtaya namaskrityam nrupasandarshitatmana avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau. Please recite. Adrishtaya namaskritya nrupasandarshitatmane avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau adrishtaya namaskritya nrupasandarshitatmane avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau adrishtaya namaskritya avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau adrishtaya namaskritya nrupasandarshitatmane avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau adrishtaya namaskritya nrupasandarshitatmane avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau. Can we see word to word meaning? Adrishtaya, unto one who is beyond the purview of material vision. Namah Kritya, offering obeisances. Nripa, the king. Sandrishta, Sandarshita, revealed. Atmane, unto the Supreme Soul. Avyaktaya, who is beyond the manifestation of the material world. Cha, also. Devanam, of the demigods. Devaya, unto the Supreme Lord. Svapuram, to his own house. Yayau, returned. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. King Prithu then offered his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Lord of all the demigods. Although not an object of material vision, the Lord revealed himself to the sight of Prithu Maharaj. After offering obeisances to the Lord, the king returned to his home. Please recite the translation response. King Prithu then offered his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Lord of all demigods. Although not an object of material vision, the Lord revealed himself to the sight of Maharaj Prithu. After offering obeisances to the Lord, the king returned to his home. Purport. The Supreme Lord is not visible to material eyes, but when the material senses are inclined to the transcendental loving service of the Lord and are thus purified, the Lord reveals himself to the vision of the devotee. Avyakta means unmanifested. Although the material world is a creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is unmanifested to material eyes. Maharaj Prithu, however, developed spiritual eyes by his pure devotional service. Here, therefore, the Lord is described as Sandarshitatmana, for he reveals himself to the vision of the devotees, although he is not visible to ordinary eyes. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 4th canto, 20th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena of Maharaj Prithu. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. First of all, I seek blessings from all the assembled devotees, in particular His Grace Anandmaya Prabhu. As we are discussing from this section, and this one particular episode of Maharaj Pruthu's description is almost coming to an end, by which we can see the glorious activities of Pruthu Maharaj. So when Pruthu Maharaj himself appeared from the churning of the body of Vena, so all these activities of Maharaj Pruthu were foretold by the great devotees, great sages assembled there. How he will be performing 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas, how he will be chastising Mother Earth for giving, for not supplying necessary ingredients, how will he be receiving 4 Kumaras, in particular Sanat Kumar, and take instructions, and how in general King Prithu Maharaj will be ruling. So this is one particular episode where we see that when Prithu Maharaj was conducting this 100th Ashwamedha Yagya, Indra becomes very envious and tries to resort to irreligious forms and activities to stop Indra, stop Prithu Maharaj's progress. However, Prithu Maharaj being a pure devotee, or having become pure devotee by that particular act, now the Supreme Lord became visible in front of his eyes. So, here, this particular verse speaks about Adrishtaya namaskritya nrupa sandarshitatmane avyaktāya cha devanam devaya swapuram yayau. So there can be multiple meanings to the combinations of how the words are read. However, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that when here mentioned here as Adrishtaya namaskritya, here Adrishtaya refers to all other peoples in the sacrificial arena couldn't see the Supreme Lord. Only Prithu Maharaj was able to see the Supreme Lord, not others. Of course, the demigods were able to see, but still not all the demigods were able to see. So, Adrishtaya namaskrityam nupa sandarshitatmane. So, here it refers to that the Supreme Lord was not visible to everyone. Even though he appeared in front of Prithu Maharaj, and everyone could see that Prithu Maharaj is offering prayers to the Supreme Lord, everyone could understand that Prithu Maharaj is offering obeisances to Supreme Lord. He is talking to Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is reciprocating with him. But still, not everyone could see. So sometimes this kind of picturization is given in the scenes in the movies. Sometimes that somebody is visible only to few people, and that creates very sensation amongst everyone else. That how can somebody be only visible to few people? So here one such scenario is happening where only Prithu Maharaj and few principal demigods are able to see Supreme Lord, and not everyone, even though he was present. So that is how the Supreme Lord keeps himself, concealed. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita mudhoyam nabi janati loko mam ajam avyayam. So Krishna tells that I don't reveal to anybody and everyone. So Krishna, deserves, or rather Krishna reserves that right that to whom he will be revealed to. Just like even in this normal material world, we reserve the right as to who will come into our home. Right? Not everyone comes to our home, sits, and is able to walk into our home. So Krishna reserves that right that to whom I will be revealed. Not everyone. Even those who are very, very advanced in devotional service may not be able to see Krishna the way Prithu Maharaj has seen directly face to face. It is not so easy. And even if sometime Krishna comes in front of the eyes of the devotees, still sometimes devotees may not be able to recognize that that particular person was Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what to speak of those ordinary, mundane people who put a claim that if Supreme Lord is there, please tell him to come in front of me. As if the Supreme Lord is a servant of all these people. And as soon as he orders, the Supreme Lord, out of fear of his existence, he will come and stand in front of them. And if Lord does not stand in front of them, we reject. The Lord is, there is no God. People feel like that. So this is a pity of these people, that those who cannot see Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas Supreme Lord, he reveals. In the Brahma Samhita there is a prayer, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilekoyantam. So those devotees who can see, they can very clearly see everything is happening because of Supreme Lord's action. In every act of life, they can see that Supreme Lord is acting, or directly being present with them. So that fortune, that to understand that Supreme Lord is everything, Supreme Lord is visible everywhere. That is the act of great devotional service. Only when the knowledge is completely manifest in the heart of a particular devotee, such thing does not happen. So here, Adrishta here also refers to those people who are unfortunate people, those who have not developed Krishna consciousness, they can't see. They can't see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals to the devotees as per their level of surrender. Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamiham. So, if we fully surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will fully reveal himself to the devotees. So, even in the level of fortune, Prithu Maharaj is considered very fortunate because he could see Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could talk to him, not just see. Just remembering, even hearing the words of Supreme Personality of Godhead is also very great fortune. Just like in the Bhagavatam, sometimes it is mentioned that all these demigods, along with Brahma, they went to Lord Vishnu for offering a prayer that please relieve us from this suffering. The atrocities of Kamsa, the atrocities of so many other irreligious rulers have increased a lot. So please save us from this. So when Supreme Lord spoke, only Brahma and Lord Shiva, they could hear the Supreme Lord. Forget about seeing. Lord was not visible only to any of these demigods. Only his words were heard by these two principal demigods, and they in turn spoke to the other demigods, like that. So having a vision of the Supreme Lord directly from eyes is very, very rare. Very, very rare fortune. So that rare fortune was achieved by few devotees. That's why Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhet. What is that siddhet? This can also refer to having any kind of interaction with Supreme Lord directly. Is very, very rare fortune. So here Prithu Maharaj was not just able to hear, but was able to see also. Just like Dhruv Maharaj also, after having completed his tapasya, he was able to see Supreme Lord, right? He was able to speak to Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord stood in front of him, offered benediction to him, like that. So this kind of fortune is quite rare. Actually, there is another kind of fortune which is less fortunate than this fortune. What is that fortune? That a devotee of the Supreme Lord just to see Supreme Lord for a very short span of time. There is no much interaction also. Like Narad Muni, when he did tapasya after his mother left, he took that as fortune of the Supreme Lord. He did tapasya and Supreme Lord gave a very, splash vision to Dhruv Maharaj, to Narad Muni. And he said that this much is sufficient for you. Right? He said this much is sufficient for you. Imagine somebody who can give up his mother, only source of livelihood for the small boy, gave up mother at the age of 5, and he did lot of tapasya. And for Lord says only a flash of darshan, that is sufficient. So he did not have much interaction. Only interaction he had is Supreme Lord told that you are not yet mature devotee. So next life, you will get next chance. And Lord disappeared. Lord there was not even ready to offer any benedictions to Narada Muni. Of course, he offered benediction that in next life he became such a great personality. But in that life, nothing like that. So the next fortune of the devotees is that in the entire span of life, only once they saw the Supreme Lord. Like we have Dhruv Maharaj, like we have Prithu Maharaj, like we have, I don't know whether I can use Prahlad Maharaj or not, but at least one small interaction with the Supreme Lord. Like for example, Gajendra, right? He had interaction with the Lord, very short span of time, once in a lifetime, right? Many people sometimes become very fascinated by this tagline called once in a lifetime opportunity, right? But actually devotional service is once in a million's life. Because once you take up devotional service, you won't get any other chance to practice devotional service in material world, right? This is once in a million life opportunity. So anyways, those are one kind of fortunate people who see Supreme Lord. There is an interaction with the Supreme Lord. Whereas there are more fortunate devotees than Prithu Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj also, is that they have regular interaction with Supreme Lord. Like sometimes, okay, once in a life, okay, once you wanted to meet Supreme Lord, you could meet. Again, after a few years, you want to meet Supreme Lord, you can do that. Like sometimes some demigods have this fortune. Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods. When they do great yagyas, Supreme Lord manifests. And you can offer something to the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord will just give some benediction and becomes invisible. Adrishtaya. He becomes again invisible. Now, there are other fortunate devotees of the Supreme Lord who can see Supreme Lord, interact with the Supreme Lord quite constantly. Like there were Pandavas. Hmm? So they were almost like living with Krishna. Living with Krishna means that you need not do a great endeavor to go and meet. Like, for example, you're staying in a particular place, you have your neighbors. You don't have to call out for an appointment, sit, go and wait and meet your neighbors. You can go and meet your neighbors. You can see your neighbors walking out of your lane, right? So that kind of fortune was awarded for Pandavas. So Pandavas, whenever they were in the great danger, even after this is even before the battle of Kurukshetra, they were quite regularly able to see Krishna. Or at least there is a message. You can send a message to Krishna, and Krishna will reciprocate by sending another message. Or after the battle of Kurukshetra, at least for few months or few good amount of time, Krishna was staying in Hastinapur, right? He was staying with Yudhishthira, he was staying with Arjuna. So that is great fortune that you can always interact with Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can stay, eat. This is what Arjuna was referring. I have been playing with you. I have been sleeping with you. Shayyashana Bhojana. Everything I did together, O Krishna. So that is one fortune. So please note that in this fortune, the devotees still are hankering for Krishna's association. It is not that they are taking Krishna's association cheaply. They are not. They are having respect for Krishna. The next kind of fortune of those people is that Krishna hankers for the association of such devotees. When that devotee is in the absence, Krishna feels that when will this devotee come back? When will I can get the association of these devotees? So these are great fortunate people. Like for example, when Krishna left Vrindavan, Krishna was missing the association of the devotees more than devotees feeling missing the association of Krishna. Of course, we cannot compare that who is feeling more separation. It is quite complicated to say that Krishna is missing the devotees in Vrindavan or Vrindavan Vasis are missing the association of Krishna, and which of the magnitude of separation is greater is little difficult to compare. Likewise, there are other devotees also where Krishna feels that he feels hankers for the association of such devotees, like that. But then more than that, there are other fortunate devotees of Krishna also, where Krishna feels that he is dependent on such devotees, who is always visible, who is always interactable, who is always able to have the association, and Krishna feels that I am dependent on them. Like for example, that's why Shukdev Goswami in the Bhagavatam speaks that how can I even describe the great fortune of these Rajvasis who can always see Krishna playing. Like I have described how the Pandavas are very fortunate because they can on and off see Krishna. Whereas these Gopas who are covered friends of Krishna, who are always every day they can see Krishna. They can play with the Krishna. They can climb on shoulders of Krishna. And Krishna also reciprocates with them, acts as if he has lost the game, acts as if he wants to win the game. So that fortune is of Gopas who are constantly interacting with Krishna. Whereas Krishna feels dependent on somebody, like Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. So when Krishna is performing his childhood pastimes, he acts as if he is dependent on Mother Yashoda. Only once Krishna made Yashoda felt that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only once when he showed that Vishwarupa. Apart from that, all other times he acted as if I am dependent on Mother Yashoda. If Mother Yashoda does not feed me milk, what will happen to me? If I don't get food from Mother Yashoda, what will happen to me? So that kind of devotee's fortune is yet very, very rare. Where Krishna feels that he is dependent. Krishna feels that if I don't get love from these personalities, what will happen to my life? So in this way, uh, there are great, great fortunate devotees from one level to another level. So wherever our fortune strikes, we should feel that it is very fortunate for us. Of course, definitely we should always anchor for a greater fortune. But even if we have a very little interaction with Supreme Personality of Godhead or His devotees, we should feel that it is very great fortune. Just like interaction with the Supreme Lord is transcendental, a similar way, devotees of the Supreme Lord interactions is also very, very fortunate. In the song sung by Narottam Das Thakur, he is always feeling that why I couldn't meet and interact with Lord Chaitanya, Je Anilo Premadhana. Why I couldn't get the fortune of having association of Sanatan Goswami. Why I couldn't have that fortune of associating with Rupa Goswami. Like that. So in this way, whatever small fortune we get of Supreme Lord's grace, we should immediately accept it. Even there are many other devotees, even in Krishna consciousness, those who came in touch with His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, even if they have interacted once, they remember for the rest of their lives that, this was the one interaction which I had with Srila Prabhupada. So like that. So here, Nrupa Sandarshit Atmane means that both were for this Prithu Maharaj was very fortunate that Supreme Lord revealed himself. So many a times the Supreme Lord is compared to the sun. Why? Because it is not in our control when we will say that sun to rise. So whenever the sun rises, we should consider that it is good. Like sometimes in the winter, when the climate is little cold, and because of clouds, the sunrise happens little later. So when the sunrise happens little later, nobody will say that, the sun has come late, so I reject the sun. Can anybody tell like that? Sun was supposed to rise early, but because of the clouds, the sun has risen little late, so I reject the sun. No. It is fortune that sun at least has become visible. So all these mundane kind of people, they do not understand the greatness of Krishna. That's why they are suffering in this material world. So in this material world, how can we see Krishna? How can we see Krishna? It is a very subtle science. Even when Krishna comes in front of your eyes, you may not be able to see. Like we have the story of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was a very great devotee. It is not that he had some problems in understanding the reality of life, and it is not that he is struggling to figure out whether Krishna exists or not. But still, when Krishna came in front of Madhavendra Puri, offered him a glass of or a katori of milk, Madhavendra Puri thought that, he is a very small boy. Having observed me observing fast, he has brought me some milk. So Madhavendra Puri thought like that. But only little later he could realize that it was Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even when Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals, even great, great devotees do not understand. Likewise, we have story in Tirupati also. This Ananta Acharya was doing service to the Lord, who has given up everything for taking care of Lord's Vigraha. The Supreme Lord manifests in front of him like a small boy, asking him that I will assist you in the service. But still he couldn't recognize that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if Krishna reserves that right that even my very great devotees should not understand who I am. So what to speak of ordinary materialistic people? They will just not understand anything of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna was present in front of Duryodhana also. He couldn't recognize who is Krishna. Lord Ramachandra was manifest in front of so many of the demons. Ravana, Indrajita. Kumbhakarna, even they had great knowledge about scriptures. Still, they couldn't recognize Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender to His instructions. Hmm? So, in this way, Krishna consciousness is very, very rare. Hmm? And to have any fortune, any interaction, any revelation from Krishna is a very, very great fortune. Hmm? So now the question may be raised that how somebody who is not able to see Krishna, how can he see Krishna? Hmm? What is that qualification? What is that process by which a person can attain that state? Hmm? So now at least we should understand that just by coming in front of the Lord's Vigraha, Archa Vigraha, and seeing the Lord for some time, we should not feel that, oh, this is done. Of course, this is also great fortune. Hmm? To even see the deity of Vigraha of Krishna is also great fortune. Hmm? So Prabhupada says that just because you cannot see anything other than material things, hmm, anything other than material things, Krishna appears in a seemingly material form as Archa Vigraha. Hmm. But Krishna's form, Krishna's transcendental pastimes, Krishna's transcendental nature cannot be revealed just by having a darshan, one interaction in life. Okay, you came and saw the Vigraha of Supreme Lord. Hmm. So that's why Krishna speaks 10th chapter and 11th chapter in Bhagavad Gita. How you can see me, even if you do not have eyes to see me, how you can try to see me in a particular way, in understanding the opulences in this material world. So when you try to understand that, try to see Krishna through the lessons in Bhagavad Gita, then Krishna will slowly manifest in your life, and he will show what all he can do. Hmm? So this is all about the life of devotees. When we surrender to Krishna, how Krishna shows his form, how Krishna reveals himself, how Krishna protects, how Krishna takes tests of devotees. All these things become very, very easy. Hmm? So here in this particular verse, we see that the Supreme Lord became unmanifest. Hmm? So this word Adrishtaya Namaskrityam also refers to that he offered obeisances to the Supreme Lord as he became unmanifested in front of his eyes. Adrishtaya Namaskritya Nripa Sandarshitatmana Avyaktaya cha Devanam Devaya Sapuram Yayo. So having fully satisfied that Supreme Lord is satisfied. If Supreme Lord becomes satisfied, the scripture say everything else becomes satisfied. So having known that Supreme Lord is satisfied with my activities, very contented, Prithu Maharaj went back to his home. So we as devotees of Krishna consciousness should learn from the lives of great devotees, from the lives of scriptures, how we can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in our own lives. So I'll just take one instance from the life of Srila Prabhupada. So when Srila Prabhupada was struggling to maintain his business, he was having business in Prayagraj, and his family was in Kolkata, that time Calcutta. So he used to sometimes travel up and down from Kolkata to Prayagraj, that time Allahabad. So once when Prabhupada got this news that the pharmacy unit which was run by Prabhupada was burnt, got fire, and everything was lost. So then Prabhupada felt that Krishna is indicating me to give up the business. Krishna is indicating me to give up that business. Krishna tells somewhere in the scriptures, Harishye tad dhanam shanai. I will take away everything from a devotee who is advancing, because then he will be fully dependent on me. So Prabhupada remembered that verse. Imagine, just for say, if the fire couldn't have come up, if there was no fire, and Prabhupada would have become successful in his pharmaceutical business, who knows, he would have taken that step of giving up and taking up the preaching mission. So because definitely Prabhupada had an interaction with his spiritual master, he was already spiritualized. He is a Nitya Siddha Acharya. But just for an instance, he saw that it is an indication of Lord that I should give up everything and take up Krishna consciousness preaching full and final as his life and mission. Hmm. So, in the life of devotees, Krishna can act in a various way, even if he is not directly manifest in front of our eyes. Hmm. So, we through the guidance of superior devotees, guidance of the scriptures, we can understand how Krishna is visible in front of our eyes, like that. Hmm. This is what I thought we can share in this particular context of Srimad Bhagavatam. And going further, we'll see how Prithu Maharaj continued ruling the citizens, how he was blessed by the association of four Kumaras. Hmm. So thank you all very much for giving me opportunity. Anybody has any questions or comments, you can please. Yes, there is a question. Hmm. Thank you. Hmm. Okay, see, generally adrishtaya, it can refer to external senses. Hmm. Like even in front of external senses, if the Lord disappears, for devotees, he is still visible in the heart of the eyes. Hmm. Seeing Krishna is not just seeing activity of eyes, it is activity of heart. Hmm. So for Vrajvasis, even though for the external senses, Lord was not manifest, hmm, but for internal heart, he was always visible. So this Adrishtaya may not a very appropriate word for using for Vrajvasis, because even though external senses were not seeing Krishna, internally they were always seeing Krishna, like that. So this Adrishtaya may not be an appropriate word for Vrajvasis. Yes? Okay. If we see the sequence of activities, uh, it is not very clear that, it's not shown as if Prithu Maharaj wanted to see Lord. The main idea of the focus is Prithu Maharaj wanted to please Lord by doing Ashwamedha Yagyas. Uh, by benefiting the citizens, by taking care of the citizens nicely, is also one of the service to the Supreme Lord. Like becoming a king is also service. It is not some post to be enjoyed upon. So Prithu Maharaj wanted to serve all the citizens and please them as per the instructions of the Supreme Lord. So that was the whole idea of Prithu Maharaj. Now the Supreme Lord came in front of Prithu Maharaj not because Prithu Maharaj demanded, because Supreme Lord became pleased by Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj surrender, Prithu Maharaj's mood of cooperation, like that. So then Supreme Lord came in front of. Prithu Maharaj never demanded. Hmm. So of course, when we do yajna in a right way, Supreme Lord manifests. So that is the right way of seeing Krishna. It is not any demanding way of seeing Krishna. Hmm. Just like when we see Krishna, we are advised to see first lotus feet, navel, then go to face of Krishna. So somebody takes darshan of the Lord like that does not mean that he is demanding. So similarly, those people who are great kings, they do yagyas, demigods, they do yagyas. Then Krishna manifests, it is not some demanding nature of Prithu Maharaj. He was humble, he was following the right path. Okay? Okay. Any further questions? Or we can conclude here. So thank you all very much. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.